Okay, it is 5:03. I'm going to call the meeting of the special for Selectmen to order. We are meeting remotely via Zoom. First things first is the Pledge of Allegiance. You all please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Early, I gotta ask, are you in a closet? We're just gonna say he is.
Didn't you guys already ask me that?
No, I didn't, but I've been wondering about it for weeks.
No, it's very small, but it's not a closet.
Oh.
It's my office.
Okay, all 5 members of the Board of Selectmen are present. There is no need for agenda approval because this is a special meeting. The agenda can't be altered. Our next item of business is approval of meeting minutes. First up is the budget workshop minutes from February 18th, 2020. Are there corrections? Sarah?
Yes, on page 2, under Broadbrook Fire Department, it's listed as Gregory Bancroft, Assistant Chief. That should be Jerry Bancroft with a J.
It's Charlie Nordell for Selectmen. It's that way on the first page too.
Oh. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if Peg's on, so I'll take these down and get them to her.
I'm on, Jay.
Oh, hi, Peg.
Just got on, sorry.
So the only thing you may have missed is the 2 different corrections of Jerry Bancroft's name on the February 18th meeting minutes, page 1 and page 2.
Okay, 2:18. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other corrections? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to adopt the minutes of the February 18th workshop as amended.
So moved, Jason.
Moved by Marie. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Sarah. Any further corrections? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Selectman Baker? Selectman Baker? Aye. Selectman Nordell?
Aye.
Selectman Muska?
Aye.
Selectman D'Souza?
Aye.
So passed. Next are the meeting minutes from February 20th, 2020. These are from the regular meeting. Are there any corrections? Sarah?
Just a minor one on page 3, towards the bottom about just correcting Chief Barton's name. I moved that and Selectman Nordell seconded that, so it was just reversed.
Okay. Any other corrections? Seeing none, a motion would be in order to accept the minutes as amended. Is there a
So
motion?
I'll make that.
Marie, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Sarah. Any further corrections? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Selectman Baker. Aye. Selectman Nordell.
Aye.
Selectman Muska.
Aye.
Selectman D'Souza.
Aye.
Okay, so approved. Special meeting minutes from our budget workshop on March 2nd. Are there any corrections?
Jason,
Yes, ma'am.
that meeting, March 2nd, if you go to the March 19th meeting minutes on page 4, we already approved that last month, well, last meeting.
This is not the one we held?
It's the budget workshop that we had. We already approved those minutes on the last time we met on the 19th. If you go to page 4 on
Yep.
your,
Budget workshop, budget workshop. Okay,
that's already been approved.
and there's no need for any further action.
No.
We'll move on to the meeting minutes, the regular meeting minutes of March 19th. Are there any corrections? The motion would be in order to adopt the minutes as presented.
I'll move we approve the minutes of March 19th, 2020 regular meeting as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alan. Any further discussion or corrections? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Selectman Baker?
Aye.
Selectman Nordell?
Aye.
Selectman Muska?
Aye.
Selectman D'Souza?
Aye.
All right. So this is going to be a little, we'll give this a whirl. This is, we're now going to move on to public participation. This is the public's first opportunity to comment on items that may be before the board. There is a feature on Zoom that allows you to raise your hand, and it's under, I can't see it because my display is different from others. If Alan or Charlie, if you guys could see where it is you raised your hand and explain to folks how to do that, that would be appreciated.
If you're on a Windows machine, this is Alan. If you're on a Windows machine, there down at the bottom of your screen, if you move to the bottom of it, it'll bring up the bar on that runs across the bottom, and then there's a participants icon there. If you click on that, it'll show all the participants of the call, and down below on the bottom of that window, you can mute yourself or you can raise your hand.
Okay. So is everyone clear on that? We have once you select view participants, you can raise your hand in that feature, and I'll call on folks as they're addressed. Alan raised a good point that I should have started with at the beginning of the meeting. One of the governor's executive orders under these somewhat different circumstances require that each time someone speak, they identify themselves and their role. This is something the Board of Finance has been using. We also are governed by that, so we'll have to adhere to that. So that said, are there any comments from the public? Are there any comments from the public? Okay, we'll have another opportunity later in the meeting for the public to address us. So we'll move on to communications. The first communication in your book is an update that was put out by the town of East Windsor. This was published on March 27th and includes a litany of resources that are available either through town government or through social service agencies for folks who may have some impact from COVID-19. We just issued an update on this yesterday, but it was after the agenda had gone out. So we'll be updating this probably once a week or thereabouts until circumstances have presented themselves so we don't need to anymore. I'd like to recognize Melissa Maltesi and Melissa LaBelle for their work in putting this together, aggregating the information, compiling it, getting it ready for publication and distribution. It's a great resource, so if there's anybody who has any type of impact by COVID that might be able to benefit from some of these resources, please share it widely and liberally. We want to make sure people have whatever resources we can provide. The second thing is a letter I sent around to residents in Park Hill. I think people are feeling a little bit disconnected at the moment. So one of the things I've worked with the health district director on is we're going to be doing a video Q&A of any question people have pertaining to COVID-19. Because Park Hill residents typically don't have access to the internet or maybe even a computer in their apartments, I asked Laura Collins to circulate a memo and to aggregate questions that folks up there may have so that we can incorporate that into the Q&A and then just distribute it back to them. The intention had been for Patrice and I to record that tomorrow, but she's had a personal issue come up and we'll have to postpone that till sometime next week. So anything health related around COVID-19 that people might be concerned about or have questions about, we're interested in addressing those and having a health professional in Patrice be able to answer some of those questions. So I'm going to put out another reminder that I'm looking for questions from the public, and then something forthcoming. But it was recognized that we're trying to keep the folks in Park Hill in mind too, as we're trying to figure out how to stay connected with each other. 7C, at the urging of Selectmen Nordell and Muska, the town has put out a proclamation joining many communities across the country in ringing the bells at 8 o'clock to show solidarity and a sense of community as we move forward. I hope we'll take advantage of it. It's a gesture. It's a small thing to do to let people know that they're not alone. So we have acted in that regard. And that gets us to boards and commissions. We have no resignations. We have no reappointments. We do have a new appointment in Mr. Wesley Bell, who would like to be appointed to the Agriculture Commission. Discussion.
Sarah Muska, Board of Selectmen. I move to appoint Wesley Bell to the Agriculture Conservation Commission as a regular member for a term expiring April 2nd, 2023.
Second, Alan Baker, Select.
This is Jason Bauza, First Selectman. Just as a point of clarification, it's to the Agriculture Commission, not to the Agriculture and Conservation Commission. They're two separate bodies. But Mr. Bell has indicated an interest in serving on the Ag Commission.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Selectman Baker.
Aye.
Selectman Nordell.
Aye.
Selectman Muska.
Aye.
Selectman D'Souza.
Aye.
All in favor? So approved. We're now on to fire marshal responsibilities, and I just, we had talked about this at the last meeting, and I want to provide you all with an update on where things stand. At the board's direction, the fire marshal position for the town of East Windsor has been converted from a stipend to an hourly position effective on April 13th. The hourly rate will be $28 an hour, and the fire marshal will be responsible for submitting a biweekly timesheet, for submitting a biweekly plan of action prospectively, and for submitting a report of actions taken in a 2-week look back. So that'll all start happening at the outset of the next pay period for town employees. Beyond that, Selectman Nordell, I know, is working on developing a policy proposal to address more specific details about how that position might best function moving forward. When that's ready for prime time, Charlie will share that with me. I'll get it reviewed by the town attorney, and then he'll present it to us for consideration and adoption. Selectman Nordell, anything you want to add to that?
No, just that I am working on it, and it's with everything that's going on, it's a little slow, the process. So, but it is being investigated.
That's Denise, answer that. That's Denise, answer that.
Anything else on this is Jason from the Board of Selectmen. Anything else on the fire marshal's responsibilities for the time being? Okay. Then we'll move on to new business 10A, which is to discuss and approve a resolution authorizing the Board of Finance to extend the budget deadline to May 6th, 2020. There is a resolution included in your packet.
Take a message.
Encompasses, everybody good? So the resolution that I put forward to you comes to us from CCM and has been edited to fit our specific community. It's been reviewed by town council, and it's this is what's effectively referred to as a ministerial act. While I know about the change in the process, this is something that we are required to do. It's not a discretionary act, it is a mandatory one. So in this, it outlines the background, and we can read it verbatim if we'd like for the benefit of the people who are on the phone, and we probably should do that. But it outlines the circumstances that brought us here. It outlines the executive orders that have changed the regular process, and it outlines the specific changes and steps that the town of East Windsor needs to take this budget cycle in consultation with the Board of Finance. So, is there anyone who would like to read the resolution, or would you like me to do it?
I'll read it for you.
Thanks, Alan.
I figure you have to talk the rest of the meeting. The rest of us just say yes or no. So, okay, resolution pertaining to a modified calendar for the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 general and capital fund budgets authorized by executive orders 2020-7B, 7C, and 7I. Whereas on March 10, 2020, the governor of the state of Connecticut declared a public health emergency and civil preparedness emergency for the state of Connecticut pursuant to the Connecticut General Statute sections 19A-131 and 28-9 in response to the global pandemic of COVID-19 disease associated with a novel coronavirus that is currently affecting multiple countries and states. And whereas on March 13, 2020, the President of the United States declared a national emergency to combat the virus that is currently infecting the population in the United States. And whereas the effects of the transmission of COVID-19 has resulted in the spread of infections in Connecticut and throughout the country, as well as resulting in shortages of personal protective equipment and other supplies that could jeopardize public safety and civil preparedness. And whereas in response to the issuance of declarations of a public health emergency and civil preparedness emergency by the governor, he has issued a series of executive orders setting for the law governing the conduct of the business of the state and municipal government during the period of the emergency. Whereas on March 14, 2020, the governor issued executive order number 7B, EO 7B, paragraph 1, of which suspends all statutes, charter provisions, ordinances, and regulations mandating open meetings in order to, quote, permit any public agency to meet and take such actions authorized by the law without permitting or requiring in-person public access to meetings and to hold such meetings or proceedings remotely by conference call, video conference, or other technology, close quote. And whereas EO 7B sets forth the following requirements for electronic meetings. The public has the ability to view or listen to each meeting or proceeding in real time by telephone, video, or other technology. Any such meeting or proceeding is recorded or transcribed, and such recording or transcript shall be posted on the agency's website within 7 days of the meeting and proceeding and made available within a reasonable time in the agency's office. The required notice and agenda for each meeting or proceeding is posted on the agency's website and shall include information about how the meeting will be conducted and how the public can access it. Any materials relevant to the matters on the agenda, including but not limited to materials related to specific applications, if applicable, shall be submitted to the agency within a minimum of 24 hours prior to and posted to the agency's website for public inspection prior to, during, and after the meeting. And any exhibits to be submitted by members of the public shall, to the extent feasible, also be submitted to the agency a minimum of 24 hours prior to the meeting and posted to the agency's website for public inspection prior to, during, and after the meeting. And all speakers taking part in any such meeting or proceeding shall clearly state their name and title, if applicable, before speaking on each occasion that they speak. And whereas on March 15, 2020, the governor issued executive order number 7C, paragraph 5, quote, EO 7C, close quote, of which extended, quote, all budget deadlines for the preparation of the municipal budget, close quote, for the fiscal year 2020-2021, quote, that falls on any date prior to and including May 15, 2020, are extended by 30 days, close quote. Whereas EO 7C permits the executive body to alter or modify the schedules and deadlines pertaining to the preparation and submission of a proposed budget and the deliberation or actions on said budget by the legislative body, including any required public hearings, publication, referendum, or final budget adoption. And whereas Executive Order 7C postpones all submission dates set forth in Chapter 8 of the Charter of the Town of East Windsor until such time legislative body approves said modified scheduled and deadline consistent with the 30-day extension. And whereas on March 21, 2020, the governor issued executive order number 77I, paragraph 13, which dispenses with any in-person voting requirements, including referenda and town meetings requiring votes for the purposes of adopting 2020-2021 fiscal year municipal budgets and setting the mill rate, in effect conferring final responsibility on the budget-making authority of the town to adopt a budget and set a mill rate, and eliminating the need to submit the budget for approval by the voters of the town at a budget referendum, as usually set forth in section 8-5 of the charter of the town of East Windsor. And whereas Executive Orders 7C and 7I do not alter or modify the control of line items that fall squarely within the authority of the Board of Education budget, and thus the Board of Education should comply with all submission requirements pertaining to budget deadlines adopted by the municipality. And whereas after the issuance of Executive Orders 7C and 7I, the only remaining events for the town budget process are: 1, the budget workshops by the Board of Finance; 2, the adoption of a final budget by the Board of Finance; and 3, the setting of a mill rate by the Board of Finance. Now therefore be it hereby resolved, pursuant to the paragraph 5 of Executive Order 7C and paragraph 13 of Executive Order 7I, the legislative body of the town of East Windsor hereby takes the following action and sets forth the following modified schedule and deadline for the submission, deliberation, and final action on the town budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, which meetings shall be conducted in accordance with the requirements noticed in accordance with paragraph 1 of Executive Order 7B. Number 1, notwithstanding any statute, charter, or ordinance to the contrary, the Board of Selectmen hereby authorizes the Board of Finance to adopt a final budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year and set a mill rate without the need for submitting said budget for approval by the voters at a referendum. Number 2, notwithstanding any statute, charter, or ordinance to the contrary, and notwithstanding the prior budget guidelines and timelines established by the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance shall conduct its budget workshops on the following dates: April 8, April 13, and May 6. Public hearings will be held on April 8 and May 6. Such workshops and public hearings are to be held in compliance with the above mentioned requirements of Executive Order 7B. 3, notwithstanding any statute, charter, or ordinance to the contrary, and notwithstanding the prior budget guidelines and timelines established by the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance shall meet on May 6, 2020 for the purpose of adopting a final budget and setting a mill rate for the town for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, with said meeting to be held in compliance with the above mentioned requirements of Executive Order 7B. In addition, in accordance with paragraph 13 of Executive Order 7I, the Board of Finance shall take all reasonable steps to publicize the draft of said budget prior to said meeting and to receive public comments thereon, including but not limited to publishing the draft proposed budget on the town website and providing an email address or other means for the public to submit timely comments on the draft/proposed budget. Now therefore be it resolved, pursuant to paragraph 13 of Executive Order 7I, the provisions of Article 8 of the Charter are hereby suspended for the deliberations pertaining to the adoption of the town budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Now therefore be it resolved, pursuant to paragraph 1 of Executive Order 7B, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance of the town of East Windsor shall comply with all requirements pertaining to notice, including but not limited to notice and posting on the website of the town all submission items at least 24 hours prior to the public meeting for which the item has been submitted or shall be considered.
You move the foregoing resolution.
I move the foregoing resolution.
Is there a second?
Selectman Nordell, I'll second that.
Seconded by Selectman Nordell. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Selectman Muska.
Sarah Muska, Selectman. Just a few comments. I understand the seriousness of this public health emergency that the world is currently facing. I am in favor of extending the timeline on the budget deadline for the Board of Finance because they do have quite the task ahead of them and they can utilize the extra time in decision-making and receiving public input. However, I am not in favor of taking away a person's right to vote. And I feel that we should have been more creative in holding a referendum that would have still been safe. That being said, I understand that this is an executive order from the governor, so I have no say in the matter, but I feel that we are giving away way too many freedoms. Since the taxpayers won't be able to vote, I think that we need to do everything that we can to publicize and get the word out on the public hearings on April 8th and May 6th, and the budget workshops, so at least the taxpayers' input can be considered as the Board of Finance deliberates.
Any other public comment? Not public comment. Comment from members of the board. Selectman Nordell.
Selectman Nordell, I agree with Sarah. I think we really need to find some avenues. I know we are offering this to people, but it seems like participation is way down on these Zoom meetings versus what may have showed up at town hall. I'm not sure exactly the answer, but I just hope that the public is not scared of this technology, and that's what's keeping them away. They really need to speak their mind so that the Board of Finance can get some idea of what the public's thought is for this year's budget.
Any other comment?
Alan Baker, Board of Selectmen. I'd just like to add that it is unfortunate that it has come to this and that it is necessary. I'm hopeful that things turn out better than everybody is expecting that they will be. So I think this is the way we'll be doing it this year, unfortunately. And if it's better, then maybe the governor can make a different arrangement. But at this point in time, this is how we'll do it, and we'll just have to make sure we do it responsibly. That's all.
Marie?
Yeah, I have no problem with extending the deadline to May 6th, the budget deadline. It is an executive order, so I don't feel that my personal opinion matters one way or the other. We have to do our due diligence, and this is what was decided. But I do have a problem having, at one time in my career, taken the right of people to vote when I made a decision when I was on the Board of Finance after the budget failed, which was legal. But I get what Sarah's saying about taking people's right to vote away. But unfortunately, this was a decision that was made above any of us, so we just have to follow it.
Yeah, this is Jason from the Board of Selectmen. I would just reiterate that this is not a discretionary act. We do not have any choice at all in this. This is a law that needs to be executed. It's a ministerial function on our part, which means that we must do it. So honestly, I don't think any of us are happy about it, but it's the way it's got to be. We are supposed to execute the law, and this is the law. So, here we are. If there's any other discussion, we can have it, but we need to vote on and approve this. Seeing no discussion? Oh, Marie, go ahead.
Has somebody made the motion yet?
Alan moved the resolution, Charlie seconded.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I'll call the roll. Selectman Baker.
Aye.
Selectman Nordell.
Aye.
Selectman Muska.
No.
Selectman D'Souza. Marie.
Aye.
Okay. Order carries. Okay, so the next item of business is something that's in the works, and I don't have the process quite down yet, and I'll explain why. In light of COVID-19 and the timing of the presidential primary, the registrars have expressed the desire to combine polling places down to one polling place. That's both a reflection of their workers' concerns of being safe in a polling place that's going to invite several thousand people through the door. And also, quite honestly, they're having a difficult time getting enough poll workers to work 2 different polling locations for 14 or 16 hours a day. So they have asked, and I've started looking into consolidating down to one polling location, at least for the presidential primary for now, which is currently scheduled for June 2nd. There are a couple of complications that still need to be worked out first. We need to get clarification from the Secretary of the State's office in terms of what that process is that we need to follow. And probably as concerning, if not more so, is making sure that their IT needs are able to be met at that one single location. There's all kinds of cybersecurity concerns and requirements that are in place now. There has been issues around firewalls and cybersecurity and sonic walls and all that that need to be worked out too. So we need to act on this by May 2nd, which is 30 days prior to the primary. I'm not sure yet at this point that we will act on it. It depends on those logistical questions being addressed. But if in fact we're able to, the one polling location would most likely be Scout Hall. It's big enough. It's got enough parking. It's relatively centrally located. They've offered it up. So if we can work that out, that'll be something that I bring to you guys probably by the 16th, because we need to act by the 2nd. So I'm just letting you know that that's something that's in the works. We've been playing some phone tag with the Secretary of the State's office to get a response on our IT concerns, but I'm pretty sure we'll get there. So any questions on that? No? Next item of business then is the approval of tax refunds.
Sarah Muska, Selectmen. I'll move that we approve the tax refunds totaling $1,365.30.
Is there a second?
Selectman Nordell will second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on approval of tax refunds? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Selectman D'Souza.
Aye.
Selectman Baker.
Aye.
Selectman Nordell.
Aye.
Selectman Muska.
Aye.
Almost got through the whole meeting without messing that up. Selectmen's comments and reports. Let me just pull mine up. All right, I'm going to start with a sad update. Last week, former First Selectman Jack Radula passed away. He served the town of East Windsor for many, many years, he and his wife both. Most notably, Jack served as First Selectman from 93 to 97. He leaves behind a large family that he was very, very proud of. Much of the last 2 weeks has been dedicated to issues surrounding COVID-19. On Friday, the 20th, I participated in a conference call with Governor Lamont and statewide emergency management for an update on where things stood in Connecticut. Those updates have been happening 2 to 3 times per week, and Chief DeMarco, Deputy Chief Hart, and I have been on, I think, all of them. Based on the conversation that happened on the 20th, I made the decision to further reduce town staff. Effective from that point forward, the only people physically reporting to work would be department heads and essential staff. All others would have been or have been directed to work from home, and supervisors have been tasked with determining how best to implement that work from home order for their staff in their departments. As of now, most town services do remain available, although they are being done either over the internet or over the phone. As COVID-19 runs its course, the economic landscape remains uncertain. On the calls with the governor over the last several weeks, they've started to stress the need for towns to be partners in helping economic activity where we can. The aspect of the economy so far least impacted immediately is the real estate market. With that in mind, the town clerk has been able to offer land records on the town website, which allows for buying and selling of properties to continue. Initially, this was thought to take 3 weeks to implement, but Joanne was able to get it done in 1. I continue to meet with town staff regularly, either with all department heads or with department clusters. We continue to utilize resources available to us, like conference calls and video conferencing. We're all pretty conscious of the social distancing at this point. This has been a good way of allowing lines of communication to remain open despite the circumstances we're working under. In addition to the normal course of business during those conversations, we focused on 3 key questions that I think are important as we manage through COVID-19. Those questions being, what is the impact on your department under these circumstances? How are you managing your staff? And what challenges do you foresee in restarting services as we look to get back to normal when that opportunity comes around? Boards and commissions are continuing to meet on a regular basis utilizing Zoom. So far, the boards of Selectmen and Finance have both held meetings and budget workshops. Planning and Zoning, the Charter Revision Commission, and Wetlands have all held meetings. They're all open to the public for viewing. There is a means by which the public can still participate during public participation as though we were in town hall, and the meetings are recorded and continue to be hosted on the town's YouTube page. Governor Lamont has been issuing executive orders on a near daily basis that have allowed the state and municipalities to continue to function, albeit in a lot of ways under very different circumstances than we're used to. I would highlight a few of those orders and their impact on the town of East Windsor. Executive Order 7B requires that when holding public meetings over non-conventional methods like video conferencing, the public still must have an opportunity to view and hear meetings in real time. Minutes still need to be kept and posted in a timely fashion, and agendas need to be properly noticed and available to the public 24 hours ahead of time. All of that is relatively status quo, and we've just found different ways to do it. In addition, all meeting participants must identify themselves and their roles each time that they speak for the benefit of someone who may be listening on the phone. These are all good measures that continue to ensure transparency while allowing government to continue to function. Executive Order 7I requires the town suspend in-person public meetings, public hearings, town meetings, and budget referenda. This means that the town's normal process for adopting a budget through referendum has been suspended for this budget cycle due to the public health concerns around COVID-19. In lieu of our normal process, the executive order requires the Board of Selectmen to pass a resolution empowering the budget-making authority to adopt the budget and the mill rate for fiscal year 21. In our case, the budget-making authority is the Board of Finance, and I just want to assure everybody that they are taking that responsibility very seriously and have asked the Board of Selectmen to extend their timeline to May 6th before adopting the budget. This allows for 2 additional public hearings that are not typically part of the budget process, and it will allow us to send a townwide mailer explaining what the public proposal under consideration includes, as well as solicit feedback from the public via email prior to making any final decisions. We did that tonight. Executive Order 7S, which was just issued yesterday, modifies municipal tax deadlines and collection efforts. Specifically, it requires every town to participate in either a deferment program for any municipally levied tax or a low interest rate program for outstanding municipal levy taxes, or both. The Board of Selectmen under that order must examine these options and report to the Secretary of OPM by April 25th, which we elect to implement. The Board of Selectmen will consider these options at our April 16th meeting, at which time we hope to have additional criteria guidance from the state for what those deferments or credits or exemptions may be. I've had a number of constituent complaints made to my office about conditions at the Super Walmart. Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7S also puts additional safety requirements for all retail stores that are still operating. I have had conversations with the store manager and the regional manager about their compliance with those standards and the need to take significant safety measures to protect customers and staff. If it's determined that they are not in compliance, then I will work with emergency management and with the town attorney to determine what our next steps are. Despite the schools being shut down, the district still has the obligation to provide for free and reduced breakfast and lunch to students in the community. To do that, they have been relying on committed staff of workers in our cafeteria program, teachers to coordinate the effort, and students to help out with the distribution of over 300 breakfasts and lunches per day. Over the last few weeks, I've stopped by to thank them all for their work and their dedication. At all times, everyone continues to invoke appropriate safety precautions, including social distancing. As the lockdown to combat COVID-19 persists, I want to share some good news. East Windsor will be hosting a quote-unquote senior parade beginning on beginning at 12:30 on the 9th. The route is still being worked out and will be published in the near future, probably tomorrow. Recreation and Community Services is putting this together as a way of staying connected with seniors in our community. I know that everyone is feeling a bit uneasy and that this is an effort to remind everyone that we're all in this thing together. Sooner or later, the circumstances that we're all enduring will end. And when things start to return to normal, I believe that we'll come through this as a stronger community. Windsor's best days are always ahead. Respectfully submitted, Jason Bauza, First Select. So, Selectman D'Souza.
Yeah. As this pandemic continues, our way of life has changed. The lack of personal contact has been challenging, although necessary. Like most of you, I have never thought I would be happy to receive a FaceTime chat from a few feet away. Knowing it is temporary helps to keep me focused on the need to stay confined. Social media has been a blessing for me to remain in contact with family, friends, and the community. The outpouring of kindness has been amazing toward each other. Wishing everyone continued health and the strength to meet future challenges regarding this pandemic. Stay patient and be the light for others that are struggling. On March 23rd, the Elderly Commission meeting was canceled. On March 24th, both the Board of Broadbrook School tour that I was supposed to do was canceled. The Housing Authority meeting was canceled. On the 25th, the 26th of March, and the 31st, I attended the Zoom attendance for the Board of Finance budget workshops. On the 31st, on the 29th, the Boy Scout Blue and Gold ceremony was canceled. And yesterday, April 1st, the Broadbrook Mill Remediation Committee was canceled. I partook in a second teleconferencing meeting with the Secretary of State regarding the change for the April 28th, 2020 primary. The new date, as Jason said, is now June 2nd, 2020. The updated election calendar can be viewed on the town site under Town Clerk's office, and it's also included in the recent released Town of East Windsor Resource Guide in response to the COVID-19 update, updated on March 27th. That's all I have.
Thank you, Marie. Selectman Muska.
Sarah Muska, Selectmen. On Wednesday, March 25th, the Board of Finance held their budget public hearing requesting input and comment on the fiscal year 2020-2021 town and education budgets via teleconference on Zoom. Although there were over 30 attendees, I was disappointed that there wasn't any input from the public. As we adapt to social distancing and holding meetings this way, I hope more residents will feel comfortable enough to get involved and submit what services are important to them and their families. I will do my best to share information on social media so the public is aware of such meetings. First Selectman Jason Bauza thoroughly explained Governor Ned Lamont's executive orders 7I and 7B, requiring that, quote, the Board of Selectmen shall authorize the budget-making authority within said municipality to adopt a budget for the July 1, 2020 to July 30, 2021 fiscal year and to set a mill rate, end quote, thus bypassing this year's budget referendums. As I stated earlier, although this is an executive order from the governor, and I have no say in the matter, and I understand the seriousness of the public health emergency that we are facing, I am not in favor of taking away a person's right to vote, and I feel that we could have been more creative in holding a referendum that still would have been safe. The Board of Finance does have quite a task ahead of them, and although taxpayers cannot vote this year, I encourage them to please submit written testimony or attend the upcoming Zoom public hearings, so their input is considered in this process. That evening, the Board of Education answered questions about their budget. Some important numbers to note: the Board of Education is coming in at a 6.8% spending increase, which would be 4.92% without insurance costs. $651,000 of their budget is contractual and expenses that are outside of their control at this time. There are still mandated services that the district is obligated to provide, and their budget does include middle school and high school sports. On Thursday, March 26th, I began listening in on the Board of Finance budget workshop, but then switched over to the Board of Education meeting, which was on Zoom at the same time. Thank you to Selectman Nordell for listening in on my behalf, and he will be providing you with an update. The Board of Education voted to add the 4 days off from inclement weather, making June 18th the last day of school, and to move April vacation up a week to April 13th from April 20th, making April 9th the last day of instruction, because it was unknown if students would be allowed to go back in the buildings on April 20th. During distance learning, students are expected to be learning on an early release schedule. Middle and high school students are using their laptops, receiving assignments from the portal. Originally, Broadbrook teachers created paper packets to get the learning from home process started, but in the past week, the elementary school has gone online using the program Seesaw. Over 100 laptops were distributed to those families requesting them on Monday and Tuesday of this week. I think it is important to note just how vital these laptops were in making the timely transition to distance learning. Dr. DeBarge noted that there has been great attendance in all 3 schools and an impressive participation rate. Our dedicated staff has been very creative in interacting with students while they're at home by holding virtual meetings. Our school nurses are taking calls every day, answering questions about health issues concerning students and staff. Social workers and guidance counselors are still counseling over the phone or via Zoom, and one-on-one tutoring is still taking place. Grab and go breakfast and lunch is being provided Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the middle school and from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Mill Pond Village, and is available free to any East Windsor student under the age of 18 during this time. 208 kids were fed on March 26th. I'd like to personally thank Dr. DeBarge, the Board of Education, and our dedicated staff and administrators for doing such an incredible job of getting the distance learning set up so quickly. We were up and running before many other districts. Also, thank you to our cafeteria staff for working tirelessly to ensure that children in our community are receiving nutrition and are fed. I've also enjoyed seeing the posts on the East Windsor Public Schools Facebook page. It is great to see staff continuing to interact with students and share words of encouragement. On Tuesday, March 31st, the Board of Finance held a budget workshop via teleconference examining budgets for the police department, police commission, emergency management, and both fire departments. When discussing Warehouse Point Fire District, a Board of Finance member asked if it was an option for the board to put something in for the fire district. Or since the Board of Selectmen cut it, is there nothing that they can do? A reply was given by the chairman that because the Board of Selectmen didn't put anything in and provided no legal documents, that this was out of their control. As a previous Board of Finance member, I can tell you that there were several occasions that we, as a board, deliberated and put forth an option other than the Selectmen's recommendation. The Board of Finance does have the authority to put funding in for the Warehouse Point Fire District if they choose to. It was disappointing to see blame put on the Board of Selectmen in the reason for not providing funding to the district, because there was not a MOU in place if the district was going to receive funding. If the Board of Finance decided to provide funding in the budget to Warehouse Point Fire District, I am confident that a MOU could be created in a very prompt manner. It was also stated that funding for the district couldn't be put in the budget because there was no opportunity to put it out to the taxpayer, that the board is making the decision. Yes, that is correct, and they are put in a very difficult position this year, but that statement goes for this entire budget and not just the fire services section. Warehouse Point residents are taxpayers in East Windsor, and I hope this area is revisited as deliberation continues. There was also discussion of unemployment statistics being considered while setting the budget. Many are experiencing hardships at this time, including my family's small business, and we don't know how long the coronavirus will continue to interrupt our lives as we know it. However, I don't feel that we should be basing our town budget off of the unemployment rate. Although we don't know when this will end, it is temporary, and it too shall pass, and our town and schools still must function and operate when this is all over. The Warehouse Point Fire District will hold a public hearing on their fiscal year 2020-2021 proposed budget on Monday, April 6th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. I hope that everyone continues to stay safe and healthy, support our local small businesses if you can, and I'd like to wish you all a happy Easter and a happy Passover.
Selectman Baker.
Alan Baker, Board of Selectmen. So the Planning and Zoning Commission met last week, and they approved a zone change for 143 Bridge Street, and they also heard kind of a wrap-up presentation from Terry Hahn, who's been doing the Warehouse Point study. They're getting to the point where they're going to want to come see us, and then they also want to have a public hearing to, present all the information and the plans that they are going to be considering for zone changes and whatnot. Of course, this COVID-19 issue is going to put a little bit of a wrench in the works there, but we'll still probably be able to have her come to the Board of Selectmen and update us all, and everybody that wants to can hear that meeting. And then who knows if we do in my experience, when we have those public meetings and public hearings, and they're, like with the one we did recently down at the high school, you get about 20 people, and all of them already know about it because they've been at all the meetings. But hopefully we could get more people involved, because there's a lot of really, really good things that they want to do down there that will at least make it more inviting for businesses to take a chance with Warehouse Point. So more to come on that. The Wetlands Committee, the commission met last night and for one application and approved it, and that was a remediation effort for 3 Thompson Road in the industrial park. The Wetlands Commission has suspended work on the ordinance until all the members can show up, because a couple of the members don't have computer access, and we want everybody to have a say in creating the ordinances and the fees that are associated with them and all of that. So we'll hold that for a while and continue taking applications as they come in. I also attended most of the Board of Finance workshops and posted information of where the budget is now. I'll continue to do that as we go through the process, and hopefully people will continue to be engaged in that process, even though we are not going to be able to vote on it this year. Other than that, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's working so hard to keep everything going, and thank you to the town of East Windsor residents that are just stepping up in so many cool and really nice ways to keep the community going. I think it's just making it a lot easier for a lot of people. So, as always, you can email me at abaker@eastwindsorct.com, or reach out to me by phone or any other way that you want. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. Charlie?
Okay. Selectman Nordell, I have to say I too am disappointed in the manner this year's budget referendum will be handled. I understand it's an executive order. I strongly feel it undermines our constitutional rights despite the reasons. I've been saying for years elections and budget votes should be held online, and our old system is antiquated, and this would have been more of a better time than to fix that system. I just think our avenues could have been investigated better by our government. On that same, I understand the Board of Finance has a difficult task in front of everybody. This year will be harder than ever to know how the public feels about the budget and to get the taxpayers' input. The following, though, is some of which I will pass on that I've heard so far. The idea of submitting a budget based on the unemployment rate. Yes, many people are currently struggling, and the future for all is uncertain, but, like Sarah said, the town's going to go on, business will continue as usual, and the town will need to fund itself, if not more than ever, and will need adequate funding for that. Again, like Sarah said, not funding Warehouse Point Fire Department. I noticed this was asked at the Board of Finance meeting also the other night, and it was quickly dismissed simply because the Board of Selectmen didn't move it forward, and there was no MOU present. I warned the Board of Selectmen of setting this tone, but that doesn't mean the decision can't be changed by the Board of Finance, and the MOU can be presented to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance at a moment's notice. I have to say I agree with both these issues. Ignoring the double taxation issue for Warehouse Point and sending a less than adequate budget makes us much like the previous boards, who had a terrible reputation of kicking the can down the road to the next board and next generation of taxpayers. I'd like to commend Jason on getting all the information out to the public like he has. The booklet that you guys have compiled is great. It's a great source for answers to all types of questions. And I see you recognize some of the help you got from chambers, social services, school board, and others. But it's excellent to see that we always have information to go to, whether it's restaurants, businesses, questions about governing. Definitely a great resource. I would also like to thank you for pushing through the bell ringing proclamation. I think that's an important thing. It gives us all a great way to show unity and support within the community, that we are all in this together and dealing with the unique challenges we are not accustomed to. For coming events, obviously most things are canceled, but I can tell you that restaurants are still offering curbside pickup. There's a lot of businesses still doing great things out there. Pauline's Stockpot is now offering meals several times a week. They've been serving a lot of people. The school system still giving out meals every day at the 2 locations. And it's great to see teachers and libraries are doing online classes, book readings, gym classes. It's just really good to see the community coming together as a whole. Supermarkets are offering online and forward ordering with pickup and delivery. There are many great resources out and available to everyone. Again, if anyone needs help or has questions, please contact me and I will do the best I can. I hope everyone is doing well and starting to get out and enjoy the nicer weather. Better days are soon to come.
Okay, this is, we're now going to go on to our second public participation. Is there anybody in the meeting who would like to address the board? Is there anyone in the meeting who would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to our executive session. Peg, there will not be a need for you to hang around or anything like that. We will,
Okay.
Joe, are you raising your hand? Oh, I lost him. So I'll just touch base with you and let you know when we adjourned.
Sounds great.
So I'd like a motion to go into executive session pursuant to CGS 1-206A.
So moved.
Moved by Selectman Nordell. Is there a second?
Sarah Muska, Selectmen, second.
Seconded by Sarah. All those in favor of going into executive session, say aye.
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 Okay, I'm going to pause the recording and we're going to go into executive session. Okay, we are out of executive session at 6:21. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Selectman Nordell moves that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Alan Baker, second.
All those in favor of adjourn, please say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 6:21. Thank you, folks. We'll see you at the Board of Finance, right out of our own homes.